Bless you.
Oh, excuse me. Gosh.
I feel like allergy season is year round now.
No, this is a random cough. It's not. I don't
Oh,
know what that is. That's not normal.
the Rona didn't get you, did it?
Oh my God, I hope not.
Right? Okay. Tim is here.
Going on, John?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good
Good morning, Tim.
morning.
Hey, Tim Hogan, did you see Abby's email about Megyn Kelly's show on Wednesday?
I did. I just need to double check and make sure that time works, but I'll get
Okay.
back this
Okay.
morning.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is it on
Do
Wednesday?
you have
or
a lot of
Tuesday?
things that you do at 10:30 at night?
Yeah, I mean, like sleep.
Well, I was
Uh,
going to say that's the only other thing I have going on.
yeah,
So it's a question of bed or no bed
right. Was it Wednesday or Tuesday?
after the debate.
It was Wednesday, the 11th. Yeah.
Wait,
No, Tuesday.
It's
yeah,
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah,
Oh,
after the
sorry, my
debate.
bad. I was
Okay.
thinking it was
Yeah,
after.
I will check.
Well,
Mark, would you like to see the elements quickly?
Yes, please.
You got it. So, first, Politico Playbook.
Yeah.
Second is the Trump schedule from the
You can
website.
you can kill that one. You can kill 102.
Okay. And then the Politico headline, Harrison, New
Okay.
Hampshire.
Great.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, guys, anything you want to cover besides what I put in?
Hunter Biden's trial starts today.
I know. Once upon a time, that would have been our lead.
I know. I'm just
Who has who? What are the over? What's the over under on Harris and Biden appearing together? Because they're appearing together on 9/11, and I think they're appearing together in like three different places. Does that count as three or just one?
I'd give you 3 on that. If you go to separate places, it counts.
Yeah, you're kind of screwed, John. I mean, I think they're almost
I
there.
hey, look, I
What was
get
the
it.
line we said? Was it 6 or 10? I don't remember.
It was 10. I got it down to 5.
It's 10 for how many times Harris takes questions from voters. It's
All right,
6 for Biden Harris appearances. So we're halfway there on 9/11.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to leave it in the locker room, but I just find it odd that this Trump, one of the top 2 candidates, is giving a speech on the top issue in a big city, and it's like
1
people
minute
don't
to
even know what's
count down.
happening. It
In
seems
what?
so weird to me. It's not even in Politico Playbook, which we're going to
Tim,
show.
sorry to interrupt. Tim, can we get more room underneath
the only
your
thing I'll
chin,
say on
please?
that, Mark, is
Just
it's
tilt your
interesting.
camera a
Friday
little more
night,
towards you. Thank you, sir.
I
Perfect.
was dealing. I had it without getting too much into it. Like there was a big push to get him to do this Friday night, and
Yeah.
and so I think this might be a last minute. Not not giving Politico a push. I'm just saying, like I don't think this.
30
I think
seconds to count down.
anyway.
All right, we'll talk about it. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll begin right on time because that's the way of the morning meeting. George W. Bush said late is rude. We agree with that. So we'll start on time. And again, thank you for making time. Live at the morning meeting. Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, September 5th, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This is the morning meeting with Tim Hogan, Sean Spicer, and me, Ed McMahon. Thanks for joining. Again, as always, we'll take your questions. Raise your hand if you'd like to be part of it. We love new people. I see some new people today, which is great. So if you haven't been part of this conversation before and you want to get in, please raise your electronic hand. We'll be calling on a bunch of you in a moment. First, what's happening today? Vice President Harris midday flies from Washington to Pittsburgh, where she'll set up debate camp through the debate on Tuesday. Expect her to mostly be in private prep, but venturing out every so often to be in the news. This is something previous candidates had done. Neither Joe Biden, who prepped at Camp David for the most part, and Donald Trump, who didn't prep at all, really, very much, did this thing. But it's traditional. Al Gore famously went to Florida for one of his debate preps. You set up shop, you do prep, and when the candidate needs a break, they go get some ice cream or whatever, and they get a photo op. Let's see how many photo ops.
Can I just real quick, Mark?
Yeah.
Since you're big on over-unders, what's the over-under? It's a Wawa that she randomly walks into and needs to find red Doritos. I'm just telling you. There's
okay. All right. Karnak has red Doritos at a Wawa. Donald Trump at noon is giving a speech here in Gotham City at the Economic Club of New York on the economy. And we're going to talk about that and why that's not being framed by some news organizations at all or as a big event. Seems to me it is. Tim Walz is in Erie today, and he's doing an event that the campaign describes on their website or on the Pennsylvania Democratic Party website as private. Not sure what that means, but he's got a rally or an event, Erie rally today, sometime in the afternoon between 3 and 8. Both the location and the time, to me, are obscure. Not sure why that is. J.D. Vance, a second event this week in Arizona at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. President Biden is going to Wisconsin to doing another economic event, not hiding at all, out there campaigning in battleground states. Doug Emhoff is doing a campaign event in Los Angeles that is open to pre-credentialed media at 9:15 Eastern Time. So I want to start with the former President Trump's economic event. And I want to show you, it was not on my radar, even though Larry Kudlow talked about it a couple of days ago. I didn't know about it. I was putting the daybook together and I wrote, Trump has no events. Then look at Politico Playbook, right? The Bible of what's going on in politics. They do a little feature called what's happening out on the trail. So here you see they got President Biden doing stuff. They got Harris going to Pittsburgh. They got J.D. Vance in Phoenix. They got Walz in Erie, all the stuff I got. They don't have one of the two leading candidates giving a speech in Gotham City to a major group on the most important topic. So, Sean, I'm not blaming anybody for once, but doesn't the Trump campaign want Politico to know that he's giving a speech on the economy in New York? Why is this not being teed up more aggressively as the most important event of the day? And what do you know about what this event is?
So last week, my understanding is some pretty high-level economic guru types that are supporters of Trump had urged him to come do the speech. I don't know when it officially got locked in, but to your point, I think it's both ends. I mean, the idea that Politico, which is supposed to be the Bible of this stuff, had no idea about this speaks volumes about the lack of connections they have to the campaign. But if I were the campaign, to your point, I'd be putting it out as well. So it's a both and situation.
I'm decently connected to them, and I didn't know. I didn't know he was giving this speech.
Like I said, on Friday, I know that there was a lot of. I just don't know when it actually came together.
All right, Friday was a week ago. Well, it came together no later than 48 hours ago because Kudlow touted it on Fox Business 48 hours ago. So, Tim, I'll ask you a different question. What could Donald Trump say on the? You can touch.
No,
on
that
it,
one's gone, Tim.
What could Donald Trump say on the economy today that would make Democrats say, "Oh my goodness, like we've got a problem"? Anything? What could he say?
I mean, well, I think, look, it is smart what the campaign is doing in the sense that they are trying to, maybe they forgot to hit send on an advisory, which is not great. But what they are trying to do is put him in a very literal situation where he is giving an economic speech at the economic club. The ways that they are trying to keep him on message, very literal and grounded here. But I think if he stays on message, if he had, and I don't think he has just based on the previews, which are extremely limited of this that we've seen, but even the Kudlow piece had like one nugget of newness here, like Harris has been doing, and Mark, you made this point yesterday, is like you can get 3 days of coverage by rolling out a white paper, doing an event around the white paper, and then having the post-event coverage. Just find something. And so I would say like that would be the way he could do it. The other thing is he can't, and I was looking back at his previous events, couched as economic messages, whether it was at Mar-a-Lago or in Asheville, both of those veered off into personal attacks. So I think it's two things. It's one, piece of policy, two, actually stay on topic.
Right. So he's speaking to the New York Economic Club. I don't think they want to hear like about sharks or about the late great what's his name
Hannibal.
uh, Hannibal Lecter. Thank you. But again, it seems to me like he can simply bash the Biden Harris economy, which the people in that room will largely agree with, not all, but some. But does he need some new policy? Like, does she need to compete with her to say, here's what I'm going to do to help working families? Like, he did roll out already, to be fair, something Kamala Harris stole. He rolled out no tax on tips. He's rolled out no tax on Social Security. Those are two ridiculous policies that most economists think are nothing, but at least they're new things that have some traction. But does he need to keep doing that, John, or can he just do greatest hits and bashing?
I think there's two. I mean, this is another one of all things can be true. I can't see him not.
Yeah.
You saw last night on the Hannity town hall, which is why I can see him going off not just on Kamala Harris but on ABC News and saying the debate's next week and this is going to be. Look, one of the things
the people in that room will think that's a big waste of time.
But Mark, you're asking me what he should do and what he will do. Those are two separate.
No, I'm not asking you what he will do. I know what he'll do. I ask you, should he be competing with her to roll out new policies, or you wouldn't advise that? He can just stick
I would
with
say,
what
look,
done.
he has done a great job. I think the two aforementioned ones are fantastic. They appeal to a very high propensity group of voters, seniors, with the no tax on Social Security. And obviously the no tax on tips appeals to a lot of workers, particularly the culinary workers in Nevada. So I think if he can find some other nugget to roll out and stay on that, that would be fantastic. Or he can go, look, the Trump tax cuts expire. He could talk about what he's going to do to reinvigorate the economy and make sure that working with Congress, he's going to do all this. She'll let this go down. She just proposed this capital gains initiative. He could counter that, which I think would go over very, very well with that crowd. So I would say that this is where he can tap into his business experience. One of the things that I don't think they've done well is to contrast, hey, I actually have created jobs. I've signed both sides of a paycheck. Yeah. Neither Tim Walz nor Kamala Harris has. That is, to me, something that I would be urging him to do. The second thing is, I would tell him that and I'm saying this in the chat right now. One of the things when Trump came into office is all these predictions about the Trump policies, the world was going to end, the economy was going to crater. And we ended up having a very, very robust, great economy, low unemployment rates. And I think he can talk about the fact that I know what it takes. I have a record to do this. Don't listen to all of the doomsdayers and the experts. I actually can show you a record that resulted in good things for America. Vis-a-vis what they did, which is to crap all over the economy. So I think he should highlight his record, contrast it with hers, and then roll out a nugget or two.
Okay. Thank you. Again, if you want to get in the conversation, particularly if you never have before, please raise your hand. We try to be forward-looking here, and I'm going to twist the New Hampshire trip into being forward-looking. So yesterday she goes to New Hampshire. I'm the only one who seemed to wonder why she went. And almost none of the coverage reflected on it. I've now heard about polls, private polling in the state that asked the presidential question in that competitive House campaign, in the governor's race, and it's close. It's not double digits. It's within single digits, and some have it mid-single digits. So it seems to be obvious why she went to New Hampshire. She went to New Hampshire because Democrats are spooked from 2016, and she went to get it out of the way to see if she could lock it up. I've heard no other competitive theory. This is how Politico covered the aforementioned Politico. This is how they covered her going to New Hampshire. 102, please. I think it's 102. I got my number right. The Politico one. Sorry, I'm not looking at my list. Yep. I'll do better. Put up the Politico headline. All right. So she goes to New Hampshire. Politico. New Hampshire is the latest sign of Donald Trump's shrinking map. And the whole story is about how, yeah, she went to New Hampshire, but Trump hasn't gone. And he used to be competing with Biden there, and now he's not. I find this through the looking glass. I find this in a world of liberal media bias and anti-Trump slanting. I find the notion that she goes to New Hampshire and it's about how Trump's on the defensive insane. So going forward, is New Hampshire competitive? And am I wrong to think that Politico headline is insane and reflects extreme bias on the part of Politico? Tim.
Well, no, it's not bias. I think it's stupidity.
Well,
I
hey,
mean,
Tim.
No, no, yeah,
Tim.
I don't know that it's necessarily bias. I mean, it's like maybe she's, they think Politico's looking at the 2000 Electoral College map, and sees New Hampshire in play. I mean, to your point, like, look, it does make sense to probably go there once during this sprint to the general election, and you do it now. But yeah, I mean, that's an odd headline. I'm not gonna quibble with that. Where I have landed,
But what produces that headline? I mean, it's either rank stupidity, it's a rank misunderstanding of the world, or it's just an effort to spin everything against Donald Trump. Because I'm not saying she'll lose New Hampshire. I'm not saying, whatever. Democrats are spending money on TV. They're sending top surrogates this weekend. Pritzker and Rokana went. She went. They obviously think they've got an issue in New Hampshire.
right?
So how do you frame that as
look,
the map is shrinking against Trump? It's insane.
My nicest case here would be, look, Donald Trump, pre-July 21st, was expanding his map. So directionally, they are right. It is shrinking his map from where it was before Harris was at the top of the ticket.
I agree. But the way to phrase that is, it's not as competitive as it was before, but it's obviously still somewhat competitive in the view of the Democrats, or the presidential candidate wouldn't be there.
But it's not, Mark, insane. So two things. One, on the Politico headline, they don't answer the question. If it's so out of play, why was she there? That doesn't make any sense.
Correct. They don't only not address it, Sean. They turn it 180 degrees around.
But we're missing a key thing here. She was there yesterday, and he spent a good chunk of the morning yesterday calling into New Hampshire or New Hampshire market, i.e. Boston, media. So both campaigns were doing something with New Hampshire yesterday. If they're both seeing
almost like it's a battleground state.
But my point is that this is one of the things we talk about, the public and private polling. The data could be showing something that it's worth them both, because it wasn't just her. He may not have physically been there, but he spent a good chunk of the morning calling into either New Hampshire talk shows or Boston talk shows. And there was a reason for that. And I think that both campaigns are seeing something that is not being shown in public polling. And again, I think the Trump campaign thinks that they still might have a shot, and the Harris campaign is worried that they haven't put it in the bag.
The same thing is true, by the way, Tim, of Minnesota. The same thing is true of Minnesota. She's not going to lose it. If he wins Minnesota, it's not the tipping point. It's gravy. But I guarantee you, it's the same thing. They're going to have to support Minnesota or risk losing it. They are. They're not going to lose it.
Well, look,
they're going to support it.
I do think there is a point to be made that, like, look, there was a time where, obviously different top of the ticket, where these states started to slip, and this is like a bit of an insurance policy to go to those. They're not going to decamp to those states permanently. I don't think they are actual battlegrounds, but it is a bit of an insurance policy to say, we are seeing the polling seems stable, but look, it's going to be like 5, 6 points, 7 points in New Hampshire, right? So it's not out of the realm of a possibility. It's not impossible. I will just stand on where I landed yesterday, which is half of the workers in New Hampshire are employed by small businesses. Perfect setting. Right. Great time to go to ports.
Put the Politico headline back up. I want one more guest at this, and then we're going to start taking questions. And again, if you'd like to get in, please raise your hand. Tim, if you were writing the headline off of yesterday's events, this is written after her trip, that would not have been your headline. What would your headline have been?
Well, if like, what do I want?
No, if you were a journalist, if you were the head of Politico, who I demand appear on the morning meeting tomorrow and defend themselves. I don't even know who the head of Politico is now, man or woman. If we were writing the headline off of her speech yesterday, not on the economics, but on the politics, what would you write?
That was going to be my out, was to say offers $50,000 tax credit. I mean, it's a good question. Honestly, I have to think about it. This is probably not it, right? It is not.
All right. Yeah. One more question on the substance. And again, trying to be forward looking here. The big news out of her speech, because they leaked most of it in advance in terms of, increasing the amount of deductibility, was she's for a smaller capital gains tax increase than Biden. Okay. Treated by the press as brilliant and as a great way to appeal to business. Most normal people don't pay capital gains tax cuts. They don't know what it is. They don't care. So what's the what's the political traction, the political saliency of that thing? It appeals to her rich donors in New York. It appeals to her rich donors in San Francisco. But what's the point of that politically? To say, I'm for increasing the capital gains tax cut, but not as much as Joe Biden, or the capital gains tax
I
rate,
think it is,
but not as much as Joe Biden.
I think there is probably some policy component there, but also political component, political, facing. It is also a moderation question, right? It is a move to the center. It's, not to the left of Joe Biden as the Republicans want to paint her. So I think pushing that, making sure press covers that, is a smart move.
But a move to the center that only is grasped by elites. Does she need a move to the center that normal people
but
can
Republicans
understand,
will, but like Republicans will weaponize that in the other direction, right? Yes. Any tax increase on people making $100 million, is like an attack on someone who's making $50,000. So they try to translate it that way. So it's the same game in my mind.
Sean, is it an effective political play to say I'm going to increase the capital gains tax rate, but not as much as my president?
I mean, clearly, I think there's enough donors in the Dem world that on the business side that she's trying to appeal to say, hey, I'm not going to be.
But does it have appeal? But does it have appeal to real people? I don't know. I'm asking.
No. I mean, that to me, that was a donor play, and I mean, I know Tim's joking about the small businesses, but I think to some degree, I think that there's an attempt to take down the temperature and the rhetoric that a lot of business owners are hearing, and so it's, hey, I'm not going to be as bad as you think I am. But
last question.
It's an inside baseball. It's an inside baseball talking point to a group that you're just trying to stem the tide with.
Last question. Will there be a soundbite from Donald Trump's economic speech on the broadcast network evening news tonight? Yes or no?
Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur, so I still think that matters. You think there will be, Tim?
I think so. It's a good question because we didn't get a preview of it. So like how much people are paying attention is a good question.
I don't think it matters to get a preview.
Depends on what he
says off script.
And also, Harris isn't doing any events, and so there'll be no way to have Harris in there probably, except maybe video of her going to Pittsburgh, and they're going to be reluctant to give Trump his own stage. So I'd say no. We'll see. All right, Wayne, welcome in. Tell people who don't know where you are, who you're supporting, and tell us what's on your mind. And thank you for joining.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm originally from New York, but right now I'm heading up the two-way outpost out in Oaxaca, Mexico, and I'm for Harris. One observation I have is it's remarkable to me. Ever since Trump came down the escalator in 9 years ago, people have been saying, will he pivot or won't he pivot? And people say, he'll never pivot. Now, finally, he has pivoted with the specifically with the abortion thing, and no one's making a big deal. He's finally pivoted. And
Wayne, which way is he pivoted, Wayne?
He's pivoted to the center on abortion. And
okay. What's your question, Wayne?
Well, it's really hurting him, and I wonder if people notice that it's going to hurt him with the white evangelical Christians in particular.
Okay. All right. Okay, Wayne.
And
thank you.
Politico has a story today.
Hold on. Okay, so guys, he's all over the board on abortion. He's done some things, and Wayne's right. There's some disquiet on the right. The left doesn't seem appeased. I haven't heard anybody anecdotally or with data say, well, Trump's really moderated in a way that's won people over. So, Sean, is he fine where he is on abortion now, or as good as he can be, or does he still need to tack in one direction or the other? Thank you, Wayne.
Look, I think the calculus here, if you're Trump, was the right's seen my track record. They know who I'm going to appoint. They know what I'm going to do. They're not going to go against me. They're not going to vote against me. And if I pivot a little more and talk about IVF, I can pick up some women who are concerned about my position. I think you're starting to. I worry about that a little. I know that there's a lot of chatter on the right among the pro-life community about potentially sitting on their hands, and that's dangerous for the right. I just don't know how real it will be. The one thing that Trump's got going for him is his track record, and that the folks on the right are saying give him some breathing room. Now, remember, this is like we talked about this going into the convention. Why Kamala Harris got so much breathing room from the environmentalists and et cetera, because I think they were like, we need to win. We'll give her the breathing room that she needs. I think that there's a similar hope among the Trump team that the right, the evangelical / pro-life community is going to give him some breathing room and allow him to pivot a little bit to the center on IVF and not necessarily pro-life things per se, or perceived pro-life things, which because I think IVF is a big issue for a lot of folks in the community. That's kind of what I think the political calculus is, and I don't know that we're going to have to wait and see what the jury decides on that on election day.
Yeah.
Tim?
I mean, I think he knows it's a problem, but I don't think he knows how to get out of it. And it's because he's, all of the upside with the white evangelicals for striking down Roe created a ton of downside in a bunch of other communities and made it a larger, mobilizing, motivating issue for people. And like all the things that he's talking about, for example, like IVF now, the reason we are in this position where things are unclear is because of the fall of Roe and the precedent that it set for the Alabama Supreme Court to step in and do what they did. So I think he knows it's a problem. I don't think he knows where to go. And I don't think he can get away from the baggage that he has for promising to overturn Roe and then doing it.
Yeah. All right. Let's stick with New Yorkers supporting Kamala Harris. Laura Kern, who's not in Mexico, but is on Long Island where they have great Mexican food.
They do indeed.
Laura,
and
thank
in
you
fact,
for joining.
Right now I'm in Trump country in South Carolina. It's amazing to see the billboards, the Trump billboards everywhere. We don't get those in New York for some reason. So I've got a question it's a little bit off topic for Tim and Sean. And, having been in politics myself, sometimes when you speak against your own party or you're just thinking critically or analytically, and then you say it out loud, you get in trouble. You get scolded, you get the phone call, you're in the doghouse, maybe you're even punished. So, I'm joining in the chorus of people who love this two-way conversation. And I trust Tim and I trust Sean are speaking honestly, but I'm curious to know, to what extent do you get chided, scolded, advised, spoken to when you say something that the team doesn't like?
It's an interesting question. I think it really depends on, it's a little bit of like what you're doing at any given moment. Obviously, if you are, in a position like, for example, Sean speaking for the president's incredibly different position now. I will say, since I have been doing this, I don't think I have been scolded, chided. I think the Democrats, there's not a lot of infighting right now. I think we were in a different environment, obviously, post first debate, and then you saw what that environment looks like, and it can be a pressure cooker, and it can be very. Right now, I think, maybe to my benefit for now, for being on 2A and on this platform, the momentum has shifted. But I also think, not to ramble on this, but like, I think people who are professionals in this work also recognize the value of honesty and being able to not spin everything 100% of the time, even though that is sometimes your initial reflex after having done this work for a long time. But I should give this question to Sean.
Interesting. Thanks.
It's a great question that you're asking. I think that how you do it matters. And so, I used to tell people in the White House, how you go at Donald Trump in particular matters. If you go in and say your position is wrong, the conversation's over and you're done. I think sometimes going, and so when I try to do this, at least on this platform, I think you'll hear me say, my recommendation is the following. I think if you go, the campaign is doing something really stupid and here's why and and come at them. I don't think it's any different, to be blunt, than a relationship that you have with a friend or a colleague. If you go into a friend or a colleague and say, hey, what you're doing today at work is really stupid and no one likes you, they tune you out. And I think your ability to affect change is probably minimal. And then going forward, they're not going to maybe listen to you. If you go in and say, God, I know you work really hard and you're trying to move the needle here, but one way that might be more effective is X. I think you'll get better results. And I think both Tim and I and try to do that respectively to our camps, which is you're trying to coax them to the right position, maybe give them a little critique. So I think to answer your question, it's how you do it that matters. And so once in a while I'll get a call and say, hey, I know you were trying to say this, but we didn't, but for the most part, people understand that my goal, I think in Tim's goal, we both want our side to win. And they know that what we're doing is giving them advice, not because we're mad at them or we don't like them. It's because we want them to be more successful. So you're doing it in the most constructive way.
Laura, I'm going to linger on this because it's so central to the mission of what we're doing, particularly on this program, but also on two-way generally. Sean and Tim have become America's sweethearts because they do this so well. They're explaining, behind the scenes a little bit of politics. They're making the case for their side, but they're doing it, first of all, in a respectful way, and they're doing it in a credible way. They're not saying stuff that they don't believe. They're not spinning, and they're not attacking each other. So all those things differentiate how they perform here, how they behave here, as compared to most of what you can see in live political discussion. And they're doing it in a way that's good-natured and respectful, not just towards each other, but to their own tribe and to people who are listening to them who don't necessarily agree. And my hope is, because they both get huge bonuses if they don't screw it up, my hope is that they continue that, even though the pressure is going to increase. Tim's right that he's had an easier time doing it without being criticized, privately and publicly and in the chat, because things are going better for his party than they were. But we must maintain that on this platform, again, not just on the morning meeting, but on all our programs that relate to politics, because that's central to what we're trying to do. And I'm in a different position because I'm a journalist, but I get attacked by both sides all the time. And I get criticized saying that this show is too pro-Trump and also that it's ironically and impossibly also too pro-Harris. But we will maintain that as our goal. We won't always succeed. And there are days when Tim and or Sean say stuff that sounds a little spinny to me, but not usually. And certainly as compared to most of what's on offer in political discussion, they are worlds different. And as far as I'm concerned, worlds better. And as I say again, that's why they've become America's sweethearts. Laura, thank you for the question. Hopefully you didn't destroy our business. You didn't destroy our business model with that. Mike Santos, can you turn on your camera? There you go. All right, let's bring Mike Santos in. Mike, tell everybody who doesn't know where you are, who you're supporting, and what's on your mind.
I am in California. In the old days, they would call me a yellow dog Democrat because I would vote for a yellow dog before I voted for a Republican. That being said, I'm just curious, all the polling and
who are you supporting? Who are you supporting, Mike?
That didn't give you a clue. Harris. All the polling and everything, but I'm hearing these stories that the Republicans under the grifter Trump have closed a whole bunch of their offices because the money's all going to him. And Harris seems to have all these volunteers, a lot of more field offices. How's turnout going to play in this election? Isn't that more important than what the polls say?
I am very curious just in general. I think Democrats, and this is, we come out of a question about spinning, and I promise this is not actually spin, but I think Democrats do a better job of communicating ground game via numbers and can say, we have X number of offices here. We've had, this number of volunteer signups over this amount of time. And so I think it's actually hard to make that comparison because we just don't know on the Republican side. I mean, we know like in certain states like Georgia, Biden campaign has this many offices. Trump campaign opened their first office in June. And I wonder if it is lack of infrastructure or the infrastructure is more informal or that just doesn't get communicated. I'm always curious about that.
I would just say, Tim's right. I did it for 2 cycles. Obviously, that was one of my big things. How many offices do you have? How many volunteers? And it was like pulling teeth every day because the political team, states do it differently. There's a model. And this cycle, as I pointed out in the platform multiple times before, this is the first cycle the FEC has now ruled that the campaigns and the party can actually utilize third parties. So on the right, there's groups like Turning Point, America First Works that are coordinating their get out the vote effort and their data operation as far as voter interactions with the campaign. And I will just say this, Mike. I think your question is spot on. This, to me, when you are within the margin of error, it's all ground game, and the ground game's where the field goal in any state. How you get your people out, when you turn them out, do they return an absentee ballot? We call it AB chase, making sure that somebody who has a record of voting early or absentee actually goes and votes in person or fulfills that absentee ballot and make sure that it gets in. But this is critical. And so you're going to hear a lot of hype and a lot of numbers. And the other thing is Democrats do a much better job of turning in their early votes. They get their people to the polls early, and Republicans do. So we always talk about cannibalizing the early vote. And we try to say that the guys on the right, on the left are doing that. They're getting their high propensity voters just to vote early. Ours are going to wait. And so it's this battle, this PR battle that you're going to see over the next 60 days. But the bottom line is you're asking the fundamental question of this election. Who gets their people out on between when early voting starts in a state and election day? So, we'll find out who did it, but you're going to hear a lot of braggadocious comments between now and then. And a lot of it is apples and oranges.
Mike,
Can I ask one more quick question?
Yes, sir.
Why aren't the Democrats doing a better job of spinning the fact that, in my mind, the inflationary bubble was created by Trump's ill-advised tax cut, which drove up the deficit, and then his mishandling of COVID screwed up the supply chain, causing the inflation, which the Democrats have now brought back down to a more reasonable level? Why can't they spin that? This is another example of a Republican.
Mike, I got to stop you, Mike, because you got your two questions in. I've warned the affiliates we're going to go a little bit over. I'll let Tim do a half sentence response, but Mike, thank you. Tim, why are you screwing it up so badly? It's all Trump's fault.
Yeah, I mean, like I want to believe that is entirely the case. I think the actual situation with inflation is very complicated, which is something Democrats tend to do. We overcomplicate things. Mark said one sentence. I'm doing three sentences. There was it was a global supply chain issue. So I actually don't think you can look back to like a 2017-ish tax cut and credibly say that was the source of inflation. For
All right.
Tim Hogan, Trump campaign spokesman.
Exactly.
But I will say this, just one real quick axiom. If you're explaining, you're losing. And that was the way that you had, I mean, that's the bottom line, whether you're right or wrong. I don't necessarily agree with the premise. I agree with Tim on that. But I will say, if you're explaining, you're losing.
All right. I'm deeply, deeply sorry as one of the hosts of this program that we had three questions today that were all from supporters of Kamala Harris. That shouldn't happen. Bad luck of the draws. I did call Nora Curran on purpose because she's got more constituents than John Sununu, as we learned on a recent episode. But grateful to all of you for joining. Today at 4:00 Eastern time, I'll be back with my unnamed program. We'll talk for an hour, 4 to 5 Eastern time. You'll get links coming soon. And we may talk about the betting markets. I'm not sure, but we might talk about the betting markets, which, as you know, I detest. But we're going to have, if we do talk about the betting markets, we're going to have people on who do not detest them and think they're fantastic. And so that'll be a drag out, but deeply respectful presumption of grace conversation. And we'll talk at length about Donald Trump's gigantic lunchtime speech to the New York Economic Club, which is going to revolutionize the debate in this country over who the next president should be, or maybe not, but we'll talk about it. Then next week on debate night, debates 9 to 10:30-ish, at 11:00 Eastern until midnight Eastern, we'll do one of our patented post-debate programs. Don't listen to networks that have pundits who are just spinning in one direction. Rather come here to two-way and get your questions and comments in. We'll have some great guests, and we'll talk all about what happened. So you'll get notification about that. But mark your calendar now, 10 to 11 Eastern, or I'm sorry, 11 to midnight Eastern, 11 to midnight Eastern. So 4:00 today, 11 to midnight on debate day, debate night. And then, of course, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, Friday. Tim, where will you be at 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow?
I'll be in DC.
Right here.
Right here.
On the morning meeting.
I fumbled that question. Right. Yeah.
Let's try it again. I'll ask you where you'll be. You'll say, I'll be right here. And Sean will say on the morning meeting, and then I'll hit disconnect. And again, sorry we ran over. Tim, where will you be tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern time?
I'll be right here.
Sean,
On the
cue.
morning meeting.
Okay, there you go. Look at that. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and I'll see you at 4 today.